I have two questions to ask you. The first question is, when you were going to school, did you see many kids in your classroom that had special needs or disabilities, such as wheelchairs, walkers, or simply was hearing impaired or blind? Okay, the second question is, did you ever wonder where were the kids at all day? And when you seen them in the hallway, did you just stare at them? Okay, I'm sure you did because I did the same thing when I was in school because I wondered where were these kids at all day. I used to wonder what do they do all day? Do they just stay in a room with each other and they never interact with each other? They wasn't in PE with us. They didn't have classes with us. We just merely seen them getting on the bus and getting off. So I'm going to talk to you about inclusion. Inclusion is a principle that states that children with special needs have the right to be in a regular classroom setting. That means they have a right to participate in physical activities. They have a right, which within their limits. They also have a right to be in a classroom setting with their peers. And they have a right to have a regular education. Inclusion came about because of three main reasons. One of the first reasons was kids learn from modeling. Study shows that children learn from interacting with people in their age group. Like some of us, when you was young, you had older brothers or siblings, older brothers or sisters, and you watched them and you learn how to do a simple task. Well, that's the way inclusion feels about children with special needs. They feel that if kids interact enough with kids, their own peers, and watch them long enough in a child appropriate environment, those kids will learn how to do those specific tasks. That's the first reason. Those reasons were started because of studies that they have done in early childhood programs. The next reason is children with special needs learns a very useful skill is social skills. Most children with disabilities lack social skills. And if they're kept in the classroom with all the other kids with disabilities, do you honestly think they will learn social skills? Not me. I've seen this working because I've worked at a child care setting and I've seen how kids come in, even though they might be nonverbal, they learn how to use clues, gestures, and sign language. And the other kids in the room with them also learn how to interact and teach them how to be social by just looking at their body language or their cries or the way they look in their eyes. Another reason, I've talked to several teachers about inclusion, and they feel the same way about social skills, that the kids learn their social skills by being in inclusion classroom with kids of their peers. The third reason for inclusion is the children that without special needs also learn empathy and they learn how to participate with kids that have special needs. They also learn that kids are different. When I was coming up, I didn't understand the fact that some kids was different because they weren't in my classroom. But with inclusion, it introduces to the kids. So when you see those kids in the hallway, you're not wondering, what are these kids doing? What's wrong with that child in a wheelchair? If they're in an inclusion classroom, they get to learn with those kids. They get to learn to accept those kids. They get to learn how to be patient because they know that what they can do, it might take him a little more time or her a little more time to do it. So it also teaches them empathy as well. In closing, I would like to say inclusion was one of the best thing that came along because I feel when I was in school, I wish we had inclusion because some of my questions would have been answered. Who is those kids? Why are they sitting in that classroom all day? What do they do all day? My questions would have been answered just if we had inclusion because I would have been around those kids. I would have spent time with those kids and I would have learned what made those kids work. Have a nice day. And here's a little slide.